Okay, well, aloha everyone and welcome to Healing Moments with Karinna. And I'm so happy to see everybody here with me today. It's lovely. This is the 5th of June, 2021. And our topic today is what are your galactic connections? And we'll talk about the topic and how I came upon that topic in just a moment. But I just wanted us to kind of center a moment and just take some deep breaths. So I'm going to ask you to sit comfortably and just breathe. And so we're going to take 5 deep breaths. And if you know the 5 breath self-healing meditation, we can do that too. So take a deep breath. And I'm going to do the 5 breath self-healing meditation. So right hand up, left hand on top, the crown. Deep breath in, lock it. And the next breath goes to your eyes with the 2 fingers. Third breath to the, or third hand placement to the heart muscle. And to the 3rd chakra. And then down to the 2nd chakra. And I call upon the Creator's light, the Christ light, the Goddess Wheel of Love, and all the beautiful beings of love and light from all the different dimensions and galactic forces, our guides, our angels, our higher selves, the Master Guide Kirill and our beloved Master Kahu Fred Sterling, to come forth now to guide this program in the highest light of love. We call forth Pelekino'ahanei and the Goddess Weave of Lemuria to center and balance our program in the very highest light. We offer this prayer from our hearts in love. Amen. So we're centered and we're balanced for this awesome topic today, which for some people may actually kind of go way out there, but it's not me going out there as much as it is our US government that has decided this month, and this is one of the reasons I chose the topic, was the US Defense Department is going to release a report that confirms the sightings of a lot of what they call unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, which people, I think for a long time have called UFOs, unidentified flying objects. But now we have this new term called UAPs. And what it's simply doing is, I think from what they've let out so far and what people are talking about, is they're just saying we don't know what these phenomena are. I think their biggest concern was that it was some kind of military exercise from from an adversary country that might be threatening us, but it's just unexplainable. And so that's the physical energy of what's going on right now. And that kind of introduces our topic. However, I would like to take it from a more spiritual perspective, because I'm not a scientist, and you know, I've seen a UFO. In fact, on YouTube, I have a video of me talking about that. So go into my YouTube channel and watch it, because I went back to that actual space and somebody filmed me talking about my UFO or UAP encounter. But I did see one, and it was fabulous. But it's so brief. But there's just no question on what I saw. And if you've ever seen a UAP or a UFO, you know what I'm talking about, and you won't ever forget it as long as you let yourself believe that you saw it. If you're gonna, lock it down, then that's something else. So on the physical level, this is what's happening this month in June, right? And also There was a wonderful Conscious Creators webinar with Fred Sterling, my mentor, and Master Guide Carol, also my mentor, about the Galactic Heart Connection. And I recommend you, anybody that's interested, to go in there. That's, for me, it was like eating candy. I loved it. It was so great. But for many, it might be really super advanced, and there might be a whole lot of basic questions that you might want to ask. So that's why I decided to take the topic today, to answer questions and to really get down to the basics of how what I call the Galactics are interacting with us spiritually and for our great shift. And so we go somewhere in between the US government's revelations and Master Guide Kirill, his high spiritual guidance. And we'll just take it to wherever you want to go today. And let me just say that we're in a month of mastery, which is really cool because it's June, and that's the 6th month. And if you're on my newsletter, there was a little bit about that. And also, there's a channeling this month from the Chancellor of Lemuria, where he's talking about the 6th principle of the 10 principles of consciously creating, which is completion. And that in that channeling was a paragraph: a completion indicates a mastery of a particular level of any journey you are engaged in. So the number 6 represents mastery. So all month, this month, we get to master something in our lives. So there's something there that we've already mastered, and we're ready to move on into the 7 month next month, which is July, which will be fabulous. I love 7 months, but the 6 months are the ones we got to get through to get there. So mastery is coming this month for all of us in our own way. So welcome to June. And what I just want to, we got the Lemurian numerology, and I also wanted to pull out my Lemurian prophecy cards box. So this is my special deck, and I brought that out. I use this for Lemurian prophecy card readings, which are channeled readings, and they're a lot of fun. And so I got my cards in here, Lemurian prophecy cards. And so I'm going to shuffle them 5 times. And of course, you probably know why I'm shuffling them 5 times. It's because 5 is the number for love. So there's 3, and we always shuffle 5 times to put the love in the deck. And then all of you that are with us now, I just want you to put your energy into the deck. Just send your light. Okay, I'm waiting. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to cut it in half and take the card for this program today. And this is what I like to call the Kirill card. This is the king, which is it's actually the masculine energy in all of us. So we all have the feminine and we all have the masculine within us. And the queen in the deck is representing the goddess light. So this is the god light. And the gods are guardians of developing societies. And Master Guide Kirill is one of those. There's a few of them. Pelekino'ahanei is another one. And the spades represents the spiritual level. So there are 4 suits in the deck, and there are 4 bodies that we're working on, 4 levels of experience: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So the diamonds are the physical, the hearts are the emotional, the clubs are the mental, and the spades are the spiritual. So we have spiritual guidance of the very highest level with us today, which is really wonderful. And I'm so glad, I'm honored. So we're going to leave the card right right over there. Let's see if we can see it. Let's close this here. Get this here. There, okay. So I wanted to tell you, anytime you have a question, just put it in the chat or raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can ask your question. I just want to, take it to what you'd like to talk about today. Let me just introduce the topic a little bit more in that when I first came to work with Kahu Fred Sterling and Master Kirill, over 25 years ago. Seems like it went really fast, but in those days, I was just an English teacher coming back from living in Europe and teaching English with my husband. And we were coming back to my home, Hawaii, and I didn't know anything about spirituality. I was a Methodist. I would like going to church, but I wasn't overly spiritual. But I found Kahu Fred and Master Guide Kirill in a channeling session. And the big thing in those days, in the late, it was in the 90s, in the late 90s, was Galactics. And everybody was talking about, well, what planetary system are you really from? Or, what is your galactic legacy? Or what's your lineage? And I was just baffled. I had no idea what that was about. And so I gobbled up as much information as I could, as quickly as I could. And I did that by transcribing the sessions. So whenever Kahu Fred would bring Master Guide Kirill through as a medium, there would be a recording. And I raised my hand immediately for the recording to transcribe it. So I transcribed all of these, monthly recordings. Some of them were weekly, sessions. And I taught myself what was going on and who are these galactic groups. And if you read the book, it's back there, but I highly recommend it. I'll get hold on. Here. Kirill the Great Shift, which is in actually got translated into a lot of different languages. But it's an ebook too, right? And there's a great chapter in there about galactic connections. And that will give you the basics. And that's about the time when I came in. So the groups that were being talked about were the Andromedans, which is the galaxy quite next to us, our neighbor, the Palladians, which are Pleiades star system, and the Sirians. And the Sirius is a triple star, brightest star in our night sky. So those were the three groups. But since then, there have been a lot of other groups that Master Guide Kirill has talked about and that I've kind of come into contact with in my meditations. And one of them is the Arcturians, which would be coming from from Arcturus. And Arcturus is the star that's found in the constellation Bootes, the herdsman. And also the Elven. And the Elven are a group that we saw, in the film Lord of the Rings. Remember, they were represented in the Lord of the Rings. And that actually is I call them a galactic group. And they're a different dimensional process, but they were very important in the Lemurian era, 40 to 50,000 years ago on our planet. And in fact, the Elven work very closely with the angelic realm and the goddess lights, the goddess energy. And so that is a group that's very interactive with us. So how do I know all this stuff? And I think what we have to do on a spiritual level is go in and experience it ourselves. So I do a lot of meditations, and I've been doing meditation since I started with Kahu Fred, and now it's just like 2 or 3 times a day kind of thing for me, because that's really what I do. And I interact on a spiritual level with these groups quite a bit. So I'm not, a lot of people, we have to get past the fear, I think. And there's a lot of fear. Excuse me, I want to drink this. In the channeling this month from Pelekino'ahanei, which is a goddess guide that I began working with many years ago, but now I'm bringing through the channel articles with her. There was a incredible, terrific question that she was asked. I've heard that information will soon be released about appearances of UAP. And what can you tell us about the galactic forces? And she comes through with some really hard truths. And one of them is that here we are out in the far reaches of the galaxy, far, far, you know, I mean, we really are out on a wing in our galaxy. And there's a whole lot of universes, planets, galaxies out there. Let's get past the thinking that we might be the only people here or the only energies here in the whole universe. So that would be a good first step, she says. And then she says some really interesting things, like your understanding, I'm just getting it here, your understanding of entities not from this planet up to this point has been mostly molded by scary books and movies. Allow me to say that your sisters and brothers from the other worlds are not here to abduct you or to hurt you. They're here to help. And that is the truth. There will be a process of the human world releasing any fear associated with your galactic friends in order to work together in love and harmony for this great shift. And I think that's the bottom line, is that our galactic friends are here to help us, and they've been guiding us for a long, long time. So with that, I'll take a short breath here and see if that brings up any questions that you might have. I spend a lot of time in the early mornings or late at night looking at the stars, and kind of, I like the actual experience of getting out under the stars. And this brings up my T-shirt here, because this is a T-shirt honoring the Hokulea, which this is Hokulea, and it's an ancient Hawaiian sailing canoe. It's called a wa'a. A wa'a is a canoe in the Hawaiian language. And on the back of it over here is Hiki'analia. And Hokulea is the Hawaiian word for Arcturus, for the star Arcturus. And Hiki'analia is the Hawaiian word for the star Spica. And these are the two stars that the ancient navigators used to find the Hawaiian Islands when they were navigating the Pacific from farther south, from Tahiti up north, to find the Hawaiian Islands. Imagine how isolated we are in those days. How could they find us? Find the Hawaiian Islands. It's amazing. So this year, the Pacific navigators are going to circumnavigate the Pacific Rim. And for me, this represents a return to Lemuria, because this is where Lemuria was 40, 50,000 years ago, and they're going to circumnavigate Lemuria, actually. So isn't that cool? So I just wanted to tell you, this is another way we can experience our galactic connections, is get out under the stars and have a look and see what does Arcturus look like? I mean, if there are Arcturian energies here, where do they come from? And you can actually see that, or look for Andromeda, or if you have a place where you can go where there's not a whole lot of city lights, it's really wonderful. Okay, I've got a question here somewhere from, or a comment. Okay. I don't know. Mahina-ku, did you have a question? I found something on Facebook, but now I don't see where it went. Okay. Okay, I'll just come back. Sorry about that.
Aloha, I didn't ask a question, but I can ask it because I do have a question in my mind.
Please do.
You're talking about the different galactic maps when you're talking about those various groups.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if, as we are moving on our movement in space, not just our little solar system, but in the greater universe, if there are like way stations or something where these various galactic personages come in and they say, oh, look, Earth is at a place where they're going to be going through their great shift, and we've went through ours, and let's see if we can help them. And I'm wondering if, as we move in the universe, circling the central sun, if that's one of the reasons why they pop in. Anyway,
Wow.
that was just on the top of my brain, and it
Great
wasn't
question.
the one. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Great question. There's two things in there that I want to address. And for me, those, it's not as much. There are movements that we talk about, and it's the precession of the equinoxes, you know, the 20,000 year cycle that we're in, that is related to the evolution of life on Earth. However, I feel that the galactic groups are more in tune with the level of love on our planet, okay? Because these are love beings. These are beings of love that are at a higher vibration, a higher frequency of love than we know. And there was, you know, perhaps there was a time earlier in our history where lower vibrating beings from other planets were allowed to come here. But that time is over now, because we're so midst in the great shift that we are being protected in a way. And there's only very high level beings that are allowed to interact with us. And there may come a time when we actually see them, but I think they're actually among us already in many ways. And the way to connect with these beings is in meditation, and because in meditation, we're raising our frequency, right? We're raising our vibration. And as we raise the vibration, we're able to move out of the third dimensional, lower vibrating energy and elevate to a fourth dimension or a fifth dimensional awareness that's a higher dimension of love. So think about the dimensions in terms of frequency, in terms of love, because it's about, and I think this is what physics is missing, frankly. They're missing the love element. You know, it's the element of love, which is the creator force that is within all beings in all universes. It's the creator's love and that's the goddess light also, that drives the evolutionary process of any evolving planetary system like ours. So, you know, this is an evolutionary planet. And as we raise our level of love, we'll be able to interact more and more with these energies from the elven world or from the other galactic forces. So I don't know, I hope that answered your question. Please ask again if it didn't, or even put it in the chat. I wanted to ask if any of you feel that you are come from a one of the galactic systems, have a connection, feel like you know your connection, or you've experienced a connection in some way. I went out on a limb on YouTube and said, pointed at where I saw the UFO. And I will admit that in meditation, I love to communicate with various galactic forces. And the first one that I did really see in a meditation was an Andromedan, which was good because they kind of look like us a little bit. Other ones don't really look like us that much. So it wasn't as scary. But I'm wondering if any of you have ever encountered that, or feel a connection to Palladians or Elven or anything like that. Or am I going way out there for you guys? I don't know. I'll take another sip. Okay, so, if you don't feel like you have, you might ask yourself, well, how could I find out? And one of the ways is in meditation, to simply go into meditation the way you might normally do, with a 5 breath self-healing meditation, and then, just settle in, keep breathing, and then ask the question in your mind, because these are not beings that speak English or Dutch or or human languages. They're going to communicate with us telepathically in a way that we can understand. So if I were doing it, I would ask the question, or I'd even write it out on a piece of paper and wait for the answer to come into my mind, or go into meditation and start writing, do an automatic writing on it. Mahina Ku says Palladians rock, and I agree. So what do you understand, Mahina Ku, from the Palladians? Because I know you've had some interactions with the Palladians. What is your understanding of what their specialty is? Let's put it that way. Because the Andromedans are kind of the technical ones, right? They're the ones that have built the beautiful craft, mothercraft, spacecraft. Not the little ones that we're seeing. Those are just the little scout ones. I'm talking about the big ones. The Andromedans are kind of the technocrat specialists and computer wizards. What do you understand the Palladians to do, Mahina Ku? Go ahead and unmute yourself if you want.
For me, in my meditation with the Palladians, is that they're kind of like record keepers. They're kind of like record keepers. So they invite others, everyone, that if they have a specific question, go to them as like the librarians.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
And they will allow you to better understand the answer to your question within constraints of what your knowledge level is. And the way they explained that was, when you're talking about how a flower grows to a child, you tell the child, okay, you put the seed inside the soil, you put water on it, make sure it has sun, and then you watch it and it develops. But if you're talking about a botanist, then you're going to tell the botanist that you put the seed in the soil, but what's happening is all these nutrients are going in the seed, and the seed has all these blah, blah, blah. And it's very scientific. So depending upon your level of knowledge, they'll give you the answer, the primer book, or the college version of your question. So I always thought that was really neat. And the other thing about them that I think is so amazing is that they're very grateful to the process that we're going through, because the way we handle things, the way we decide, make decisions, gives them a different perspective than they've had before. And I always thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, that's my
That's
Palladians.
awesome. That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you for that share. That's just amazing. Anybody have a question for her based on what she said there? Yeah, because I agree. And my experiences with them have been that way, that they are record keepers, and they respond at the level of love that we're at. So, I mean, you wonder what does that mean? Well, if you're totally in fear, if you're just terrified of them, they're not going to show up, right? They don't want to scare anybody. But if you're open and you can feel their love, they will kind of gauge that in a way, gauge where are you on your evolutionary process? Are you in a lot in fear, or are you open to experiencing? And it goes along with your analogy, of the botanist or somebody just planting a rose plant. Also, I think of them as the healers, that they are healing specialists. And that's another great specialty that they have, is healing and communicating to the healers on Earth of what we need to do now. And that comes through in signature cell healing, of course. And that a lot of that, in case, just by the way, when Kahu Fred Sterling was putting together signature cell healing, he, in those days, in the 80s and 90s, he was doing a lot of off-world traveling to different planetary systems, and back into the, of course, the Akashic records, to get the Lemurian healing process and to interact with the Palladians and the Andromedans and the Syrians and also the Elven. And that's where signature cell healing came from. So that was just a by the way. So, wow, thank you, Mahinaku. That is a great share, because it puts each of these galactic forces that are working with our world do have a kind of a specialty. And then I want to get to Hank. What I'm trying to understand your Lemurian at the level of crystal polisher. What is that about? Can you clarify, please? What is this? Of course, there's Lemurian crystals, right? Oh, let me here. Here. Can you tell us what that's about? You
well, it was mainly to do with the crystals, keeping up an energy system that had to be tuned, and that required certain positions and a quality of polishing. And all the knowledge was in the crystals. So that's what was the source.
So do you feel that the Lemurians had help from the galactic energies with that crystal attunement? What have you what have you found, or what do you feel that the process was, or the groups were that they were working with?
There were small groups, specialized people.
Yeah.
Male, female. We didn't really see each other, but we could feel. And one way or another, we knew
Yes.
There was another type of matrix with the knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about crystals and working with energies that are off planet. And the Lemurians were really masters at that. And I don't know, Hank, if you've ever read, where is that book? Hold on. This one, Kirill Lemurian Legacy for the Great Shift, which I really enjoyed working on with Kahu and Master Kirill. And there is so much energy about the Lemurians working with beings that were just barely visible, right?
Yeah.
They were just etheric beings that were communicating across dimensional processes to them and helping with their evolution. So the crystals is a fantastic conduit for this type of energy. And I love crystals. I love crystals. And I think that, of course, being in the old days when I was an old English teacher, I had no crystals, right? No rocks, nothing. And then when I started understanding a little bit more of spirituality and how you could work with crystals, I just started accumulating them. I just got a whole room full of crystals over here. So yeah, this is a great way of also getting in contact, currently with energies that are not able to vibrate into a third dimensional form, because we have a very dense vibration going here, in case you didn't notice. Things can get kind of dense. And there's a bit of a separation process happening where the dimensions, we're in the great shift, and that's where you can actually physically feel it and experience it, this density of, fear and hatred, war, and things like that are very dense third dimensional energies. And then the higher vibrations of love that are rising within ourselves, within the spiritualists, and even people who aren't spiritualists that wonder why I just don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like being angry anymore. And they're starting to awaken in their heart to this goddess energy that is the evolutionary force of creation. And so that brings us higher into a higher dimensional understanding of love, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. And this is basically our great shift. So, I mean, crystals are a great way of connecting into that energy, because you can just hold them and feel them, or hold them to your heart and feel the different vibrations coming from different crystals. So, you touched on a really good topic, Hank. I just love crystals. Yeah. And I got friends that love them even more than me. They got them all over their house. So, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. And also to share about Lemuria. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about, what happens when we connect with these beings, and what's happening now with this revelation that this revelation that the US government is going to come out with is really not anything earth-shattering, I'm sure. But it is about acknowledging that there's something there that physically people don't understand. And for me, I feel it's a step for the, let's call it mundane world, to start to acknowledge that there might be other energies there that we can't identify. And it's not another country trying to take us out, it's not maybe another planetary system trying to take us out. These could be beings, because really, I mean, spacecraft that could do what they do could have taken us out a long time ago, right? So I think we can get past the idea that these are pernicious energies. I think they're pretty hands off up to this point. And because of this revelation, I think there's going to be more revealed, let's put it that way, to the mainstream world. And I think that's a really exciting possibility. Wow, we really went through a good chunk of our time there. And I hope you, if you're interested in learning more about this, I do channeled readings, and I also do something really interesting, which is Lamorian Astrology. And there you can look at your blueprint, and your life blueprint does indicate a lot of times where you're coming from, what your legacy is, your Lemurian legacy, or your, just what have you done in other lifetimes. And it can be revealed what other planetary systems or groups you're kind of connected to. So, that's a possibility. And also goddess readings, which also help you to understand which galactic energies you're working with. So something to think about. I wanted to also talk a little bit about the planetary energies that are happening this month. And Mahinaku didn't ask, but I'm going to say it anyway. That we're in a very interesting month, because in June, and I don't want to go too technical on anybody, but people have heard about retrograde planets, especially Mercury retrograde. And we're in a period of Mercury retrograde now. And it's not, I want to give you a different perspective on Mercury retrograde, because a lot of people say, oh, back up your computers and, don't sign any contracts. And of course, that's a good idea. But think of it this way. Normally, when planets go, in direct motion from our perspective, it's just what we're seeing in the sky, right? It's not that they're actually going back and forth. It's that we see them. It's apparent motion. So they're going normally direct, and then it reverses from our perspective and goes backwards. And that's a retrograde. And not only Mercury does it, other planets do it. Venus does it, Mars does it, and the other planets, right? So think of it this way. When it's in direct motion, we kind of operate on the normal right brain functioning left brain functioning of, this is what we do, this is how we get through the day. This is how, our communication processes happen, especially with Mercury. This is our communication processes. This is how they work. I read my email, I click it, I send it, it goes, right? When the planet goes retrograde, we need to take a little bit more of a right brain kind of perspective and be more creative, be more reflective, be a little bit more intuitive about what we're doing, and be open to new possibilities. So that's what I like to say as far as the Mercury retrograde period goes, is let's, take this 3-week period, and it started at the end of 29th of May. So it's basically the first 3 weeks of June. Let's just take some time and, go a little more slowly and reflect on communications, projects that you've had previously that you might want to revisit, anything that has to do with communication with others. And on top of that, we're also in a eclipse cauldron, what I like to call the eclipse cauldron. So eclipses come in pairs. So we had that wonderful lunar eclipse. It was a total lunar eclipse here in the Pacific late last month. And there is a solar eclipse on the 10th of June. And there's also a lot of a lot of different things happening on that day, as well as planets close to that eclipse. So when you're in the eclipse cauldron, it's kind of an activation area. So an eclipse is anything that kind of gives you an opportunity. It's like a portal energy, gives you an opportunity to see things you might not have seen before. So in the 2 weeks between the eclipse, it's a really great opportunity to look at things in a unique way, which is something fits in well with Mercury retrograde. So the other things that are happening this month, I'm just pulling over my calendar, which is very interesting because I want you to watch this, because in June on the 20th, Jupiter will station retrograde. On the 22nd, Mercury will station direct. And on the 25th, Neptune will station retrograde. So it's like a kind of a jerky motion. So you might in those few days there experience this kind of a whipsaw kind of a feeling. And what's really interesting about it is it's reflective of a time in October. So watch this time in October between the 6th and the 18th of October, because at that time, Pluto will station direct, Saturn will station direct, Jupiter will station direct, and Mercury will station direct, just within those few days. And that's kind of reflective of what's going on right now. So I like to watch those, especially those direct motions. There's also a lot of different planetary energies that are happening. What's really nice to do now, if you can, is to get up early and look at the early morning sky, because the moon has just passed Jupiter and Saturn, and that's visible. And we'll be coming to very soon a gate with Venus, which is on, I wrote it down somewhere. There's a new gate with Venus. In the evening sky. So Venus is in the evening sky right now. So you can get out and see the moon and Venus on the 11th. So right after the eclipse. Mahina Ku has said in the chat, I wonder if the upcoming planetary energies can enhance your connections with the galactics. Choose to increase your gratitude to the creator force for the marvels of our world. This appreciation raises your love quotient. Very good. I agree. I totally agree that tune in to the planetary energies at your own level, because we all experience them however we like. And it's nice to get out and to look at the stars and to make that personal connection with the planets and the stars. Just as if we have any other questions, I'll be happy to take them. I also wanted to congratulate the new level 1 graduates, first signature cell healing level 1 graduates from last month. And please watch for future signature cell healing workshops coming up soon, sometime. I'm not quite sure right now when. And also these books that I've been talking about, especially The Great Shift, they're on special at the Signature Cell Healing website. The print books are $7 each plus shipping. Few of them are on special, so don't miss that. And I also wanted to thank the Sedona Journal of Emergence, who always have my channelings in their magazine, and I'm very grateful to them. Please sign up for newsletters on my website. I have a brand new website. You have to go look. It's really great. It's totally different. I have to get used to it, but it's very beautiful. And I wanted to also remind you that we're having another a global healing meditation for Mother Earth on Monday, June 21st. At 9 p.m. your local time. That's when we all gather our energies and send them to Diamond Head to hold Mother Earth in love. So I hope you've enjoyed our program today and gotten a little bit of energy and maybe more questions about your galactic connections. So what are your galactic connections is really the question. And what I can say in closing is the best way to find out is to find, go into meditation and ask the question, what are my galactic connections? And be ready to get the answer, be ready for the answer. Maybe you want to write it down. Maybe you want to speak it into a recorder, into your phone, and record whatever the answer is that you feel is coming to you. And then watch what happens in your life. Watch what you're guided to. Maybe you're guided to a particular crystal, or maybe you want to read a book about something. And I also want to mention that on the online store at Signature Cell Healing, there are lots of MP3s with Master Guide Kirill and Kahu Fred Sterling about galactic energies. And they're just, they're like $5 each, and they're like an hour and a half recording. So it's not a really big stretch financially. But the wisdom that's in those recordings is just amazing. And you will find so much information there that might spur some questions more about what your galactic connections are. And perhaps we can clarify that in a reading. That would be fun. So our next Healing Moments program is going to be on the 3rd of July, which is a holiday weekend here in the United States, but I'm really happy to be with you at that time. Wait, we have one, yes. Final question. Do you think the Galactics are uniting their forces to help us? Oh, absolutely. I thank you, Mahina Ku. Yeah, I think that happened a long time ago, like in Lemuria. These are some of the same energies that worked with the Lemurians, the Palladians, and Andromedans, but especially the Palladians worked with the Lemurians, and the Elven, and the Arcturians. I believe in a plan, the Creator's plan for evolution is unfolding in our world, and it's not just us that are involved in that plan. The whole cosmos, the whole energies, all the energies of love in the creator force are part of that plan, and that uniting of helping us. So when we can get beyond, and thank you for that question, because when we can get beyond the idea that energies are there to hurt us, or we need to be an us and them, in an us and them kind of energy, it defeats the evolutionary flow of what we want to achieve. We want to become more in love and more guided by our hearts, and connect with the forces that are trying to help us. And boy, do we ever need help. And I just want to mention this young fellow that I've been following for a few years now. His name is Boyan Slot, and he's from the Netherlands. And he is creating, he started, I think, when he was 16, the Ocean Cleanup Project. And I'm telling you, if that guy does not have galactic connections, I don't know what is a connection, because he and his team, and now it's a big company that is cleaning up the Pacific Garbage Patch, which is just a massive energy collection of plastics north of the Hawaiian Islands. And he has also created numerous river cleanup, I don't know what you want to call them, boats. They're like boats, and they gather in all the plastics. And granted, we're still putting plastics into the environment, but it has to happen at the same time, concurrently, that we stop using plastics and we start pulling them out of the oceans and the rivers. And what he did was he shifted from, he has the Pacific Garbage Patch cleanup system that's working now. And so they created these river cleanup boats or ships so that the plastics don't get into the oceans. So for me, that's galactic participation with us. There are people in our world that are inspired by galactic forces. And, who's to say that this young man is not from one of those galactic groups? I could fully embrace that because he's just such out of the box thinking, and exactly what the help that we need right now from the Galactics is to clean up our world. We need to clean up the world. Yeah, we're beyond what third dimensional knowledge can do. We need to have higher vibrating input. And so this is the way that we go through our great shift, and we can survive on Earth, on the new Earth. So, wow, thank you for that question, Mahinaku. That is so great. We're so honored by our galactic sisters and brothers, and the great guidance we have from our King of Spades over here that we chose. Thank you all for being with me. I really appreciate it. And please email me your questions if you have them, KarinnaNielsen.com. And I'd be happy to engage with you on that topic. So I wish you all a great month of June and send you all love and light from Lemuria. Aloha.